on the sidelines of the United Nations. The Security Council at that body is apparently now inching towards a resolution on how to deal with Syria's chemical weapons, according to a number of diplomats. The Council's 5 permanent members are trying to overcome their differences. Let's get the latest now from Kristen Salumi, who is at UN headquarters. Overcome their differences. Are they just going to agree to disagree? Are they going to water down a resolution, or do you think it's going to be pretty severe?
Well, they want a resolution to come out of this. All 5 permanent members of the Security Council have been working at a fever pitch to try to make this resolution happen. The resolution sets out a timeline for the destruction of Syria's chemical weapons arsenal by the middle of 2014, and diplomats are telling us that they are very close to a deal, that they have agreement on most of the substantive issues. The West had to back down on one key point. They were looking for a resolution under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter that would allow the international community to back up their words with force, whether it's a military intervention or sanctions, something of that note, if Syria did not comply with its obligations under the resolution. So Russia was strongly against that. That's off the table. What there is in this resolution, we're told, is an agreement to come back for further measures under Chapter 7 if Syria does not comply. So not as strong as the West and the United States were looking for, but a substantive agreement, the only agreement we've had on Syria since the conflict began here at the United Nations. And we could have it as soon as early next week. We still need to wait for a vote from the chemical watchdog group in Geneva, which will oversee the actual destruction of these chemical weapons. And that has to happen and is likely to happen this weekend. And then we could see a vote in the Security Council, as I said, early next week.
Yeah, well, while the talking goes on, so too the fighting and the millions of people who have been displaced, whether they're refugees outside Syria or what are known euphemistically as internally displaced people. What about the humanitarian crisis? Is the UN doing anything there?
Yeah, you're right, David. Some 7 million people, they say, impacted by the fighting in Syria now, either displaced internally or refugees. That's a third of the population of Syria, and the humanitarian impact of that conflict is very much on the minds of people here at the United Nations. There's a meeting later today called the Friends of Syria. The group is called the Friends of Syria. They're looking to raise money to address some of these problems. The group includes countries like the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, Turkey, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, just to name a few. The UN needs $5 billion, more than $5 billion, it says, to address this crisis, and that's just this year. We're not even talking about next year. They have only about half of that money, so they're looking for donors to come through and provide them with more. There also talk among the non-NGOs, the humanitarian organizations that are affiliated with the UN, that they need more access to the people in Syria. And that's another discussion that's happening on the sidelines of the General Assembly here. How can they get better access to the people inside Syria, whether it's cross lines or cross borders? In both cases, they're having trouble reaching the people in need, and they want to put more pressure not only on the Syrian government, but on neighboring states to make that a little bit easier for them so they can actually help those people.
Okay, so the best guess is early next week. Kristen, we thank you very much indeed.